I guess I want to get into like what is that importance of rising with the sun, being outside during a sunrise, and also watching a sunset because we see it again. It's such a luxury, right? It's like you hear like, oh, I got to watch the sunset today, like yay, and everyone's posting about. But again, I feel like if we really want to be healthy, we have to go back to that where we the common thing is to watch a sunrise and watch a sunset, but talk about the health implications of that, of living on that type of prism where we are getting up at sunrise and starting to wind down, watching the sunset.
Mm. Yeah, so beginning at sunrise, I think sunrise is by far the most important part of this whole circadian discussion because that's really that's where all the process from a biological perspective begins. So when you rise with the sun and you actively watch it on the horizon, you're stimulating aromatic amino acid production. So tryptophan, phenylalanine, these sort of aromatic amino acids are actually made of benzene rings, which are photon traps. So they are designed to take in natural light from that sunrise to then create certain byproducts such as melatonin, melanin, dopamine, adrenaline, noradrenaline. Essentially, sunrise is the starting point of all of your neurotransmitter and hormonal production processes. Like without that, you are setting yourself up for a real problem, especially if you're around artificial light that, in my belief, is inherently toxic to human biology. So then, you go from sunrise, morning light. Again, I told you about the skin protection that you get from the red light spectrum there. Head into midday. Midday has a lot of other beneficial properties as well. UVA, UVB. UVA stimulates nitric oxide in the skin, which is a vasodilator. It opens up and relaxes those blood vessels. UVB is responsible for vitamin D3 production. So without UVB, you don't produce vitamin D3. There are other hosts and other benefits involved. And then heading into sunrise, of course, you have more of a wind down routine. So you get a lot of the same benefits from sunrise, but it's more in preparation for darkness, which is very important as well. So a lot of people focus on the light part of the discussion, but the darkness part of the discussion is just as important because this is a coupled mechanism from Mother Nature. So there's a lot to it, but it's a perfect symphony.
Yeah, and I was gonna say this is the law of polarity playing out, right? If you want to improve on sleep, look at the light. Look at what you're doing to, expose yourself to light during the day that will then get your circadian and biorhythms back in check where you're actually producing melatonin at the proper time. But then, of course, you have to look at what are you doing before sleep? Are you around artificial light? Are you doing all these things? What does your sleep routine look like? How do you start prepping for sleep, which again is prepping you for the next day and feeling good and having energy throughout the day?
Mm. So I ideally, I don't watch sunset all the time, but as many times as I can, I go and watch sunset to really set myself up for the darkness part. And then after the sun fully sets, my blue light blockers that are dark lensed go on. I don't take them off until I hit the sack. And then from there, I make sure to turn on all of the circadian friendly lights in my environment. So I'll put on the fireplace. I'll turn on the red spectrum bulbs that are low EMF, no flicker. I will actively put filters on all of my tech. So the laptops, the computers, the phones, all are fully red. And then from there, really, I just allow my natural endogenous melatonin to build up. And then, I stop eating around 7:30 p.m. at the latest. And then I go to bed with anywhere from like 9 to 10 p.m. And from there, I'm pretty solid in terms of my sleep quality because I have everything in place from the circadian perspective to take advantage of the nighttime, which is extremely important.
I mean, sleep hygiene, pillow conditioning, whatever you want to call it, right, is so important, and people just flake over that. I mean,
Yeah.
I still know a lot of people that cannot go to sleep without the TV on, right? And just that distraction like calms their mind, they say, but it's just terrible sleep quality due to that. And that's something I struggled with a little bit during college years. Is like you're staying up late, you're partying. I needed something on, but it took a while to break free of that, and it took understanding getting into that routine. My bed is my sanctuary. It's dark in there. I see that as sleep, not as a place to entertain myself or work. So that was a big part of it. You mentioned there's something interesting in getting the fireplace going, right? And a lot of people like, what the hell? Like, are you setting a mood here or something? Like, why the fireplace? And I'm fascinated, of course, by this, like, this inherent thing we have when you go outside or you just light a fire, you almost bring out the ancestral, being in you. That was our entertainment where we told stories around for, millennia. But can you go into why you are using fire within your realm? You could even say candles could do this as well, but why is that priming you during your sleeping hours or when you're getting ready to sleep?
Well, I just think from the evolutionary perspective, it's the most circadian friendly light that we can use.
Mm,
So, I can dive into the biological mechanisms, but if I were to tell the average person who doesn't really care about that stuff, what is your experience after you go camping and you actively sit in front of a bonfire? You usually get the best sleep of your life. You wake up feeling refreshed. Within 10 minutes, your eyes are tired and ready for bed after being in front of that thing. So I think there's an intuitive understanding that firelight is very circadian friendly. There's discussion that it could suppress melatonin to some degree. Now, I think that's being neurotic. I think what we really need to focus on is the artificial light completely destroying melatonin production, and instead go for the more circadian friendly type of lighting situations.
What's your lighting situation like outside of, the sleep routine where you're doing the fire and everything like that? Do you use a certain bulb or do you recommend certain lights that you're putting throughout your home?
Yeah, I mean there are a lot of options out there. You have full spectrum bulbs that have a little bit of blue, but nothing compared to the conventional LEDs out there. For the nighttime ones, you have the bulbs that are purely within the red light spectrum. You can get amber bulbs. Incandescents are harder to find because of the ban in the
Yeah.
United States. But in general, I think there are a lot of options out there. I mean, you could talk about Bond Charge, Midwest Red Light Therapy, Huga. I mean, there are plenty of companies that are smaller that really focus on a lot of these great technological replacements.
Yeah, the full spectrum lighting is absolutely an upgrade if you're going to have lights around you like during the day and can't just get outside all the time. I think that's a big one to look into. I know we at our center looked at Sora and have Sora lights throughout there, more full spectrum and kind of, trying to mimic as much of nature instead of just the blue that is constantly hitting you, spiking cortisol, which we already know is, out of control with our stressful lives.